everybody. Welcome back to our live Fridays. I'm Jamie, the Education Director here at the Outdoor Learning Center, and we're excited you are back. We had so much fun last week, and we can't wait to do this again. Today we are talking about reptiles, so we're looking for you guys to ask anything you're wondering about reptiles, and we'll do our best to answer those questions. We're going to take you on a little tour and show you all the animals that we consider reptiles here at the Outdoor Learning Center. And so if you have any specific questions about our animals here, that would be great. And then also don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's Outdoor Learning Center, and we have a link on this Facebook Live and also our Facebook page. If you subscribe to it, we're going to be doing a craft that has to do with reptiles this week. And every week we'll have a new craft for you guys to do. So first of all, I want to ask you guys, do you know what it means when we call an animal a reptile? I have a chart here to show you. Animals are broken up into 5 categories if they have a backbone. They're also broken up into invertebrates as well, animals that don't have backbones. But we have mammals, reptiles, amphibians, and fish, and birds. Mammals are covered in fur, reptiles are covered in scales, amphibians have moist skin, fish also have scales, and birds are covered in feathers. Mammals are the only animal to nurse their young, and all the other animals do not nurse young. Mammals give live birth. There's a couple weird animals out there, but we won't talk about those today. Reptiles usually lay eggs, and amphibians lay eggs, but they go through a change. Fish do both live and lay eggs, and birds lay eggs. And mammals use air to breathe, as do reptiles. Amphibians go through a change. They can breathe out of the water and then also breathe on land. Fish breathe in the water, and birds breathe in air. But today we're going to talk about reptiles, and so we're going to talk about the word cold-blooded. If you guys haven't heard the word cold-blooded before, it means that their body temperature is regulated by the outside temperature. So when we're taking you on a tour of our animals, you may notice some heat lamps, and that's so that they can stay warm and digest their food. But you and I usually have a consistent temperature of 98.6. And plants, sometimes they will eat insects if they come across them, but usually just herbivores. They can lay eggs. They do not like to swim, and she loves to dig. In fact, if you're here, you'll notice that she's always digging in her little habitat. She's very docile, kind of a sweet tortoise. And a cool fact about tortoises, you guys may have heard of things like herds and packs. A group of tortoises is called a creep. And actually tortoises inspired the Romans' armies. We have another tortoise we're going to introduce you to, and Stella's going to bring Dorothy over, or not Dorothy. So this is Kiki, and he's one of our tortoises here. He's been here for about 15 years, and he is a sulcata, sorry. He is also herbivore. He likes to eat vegetables. During the summer, we actually put him outside to graze. And he has grown a lot. When we first got him, he was about a size of $50. He's gotten much, much, much bigger. So we'll probably say goodbye to Kiki at this point. Say goodbye, Kiki. So you guys may have noticed that we talked about reptiles having scales. Those scales are actually made of a thing called keratin, which is just like our hair and fingernails and bird feathers are made out of. You guys may have noticed that they look really scaly, and that's their keratin. They actually have that dry skin to help them conserve water because they don't have a lot of water in their resources. But the next thing we're going to talk about is probably my favorite reptile, in case that was a question. We have our bearded dragons, and we're also going to talk about leopard geckos. So let's go get Curly. Isaac's running quickly to get Curly. Or maybe we're going to get Viola. So Viola came to us. A lot of people want to know, are reptiles a cool pet to have? All of our animals were rescued, meaning somebody didn't want them anymore. Not necessarily from a bad home, but they were brought to us because they didn't necessarily want the reptiles anymore. You have to make a big commitment when you have a pet as a reptile. So Isaac, you want to come over? this is Viola, and you may notice that she has missing a leg. So sometimes bearded dragons don't get along when people put them together, and so she had a roommate that wasn't very nice to her and actually took off some of her tail too. We love bearded dragons. They're an excellent starter pet if you're really interested in getting a reptile. They like to wave at each other, and so sometimes you can tell if they're going to get along if they will actually wave to each other. They also can show you that they're not getting along very well. They can puff up. They can change color of their scales. So do not put two bearded dragons together before you know if they're going to get along or not. I've been told they can run up to 9 miles an hour. I don't think Viola can do that speed with her legs. They can also swim. We don't put ours in water, but we do give them baths sometimes. Some of the lizards that we're talking about today actually can grow body parts back. Viola obviously cannot grow a body part back, but if she loses teeth, she can actually regrow teeth. We've seen Viola, when she met another bearded dragon, puff her throat out and it changes color. So if you guys ever see a bearded dragon do that, they're telling you something is not necessarily right, or the male to male might think they're being aggressive. Viola is also an herbivore, and sometimes we'll feed her a few mealworms, but mostly she gets lots of vegetables. So we're gonna have Isaac put her back, and we'll bring out our next one, which is a leopard gecko named, is this Irwin? Yeah. So this is Irwin. Irwin actually was one of our first animals here at the Outdoor Learning Center. He's probably about 17 years old. You have to be really careful with leopard geckos, because if they get scared, they have a defense mechanism that can actually, they'll lose their tail. And so we were really careful when we handle him. Leopard geckos actually will eat the skin that they're shedding. We haven't talked about reptiles shedding skin, but as they grow, they actually shed their skin off. And so we've seen them sometimes pull the skin off with their back foot or front foot and actually watch them eat their feet or eat their skin. They do have eyelids, so they can blink, unlike snakes and some other lizards. They can close their eyes when they're sleeping. And these guys eat mealworms mostly, and sometimes we offer some veggies as well. But we also use spray to help with the humidity. So thank you, bearded dragon. We do have some questions coming in, so maybe I'll. Okay. I'm gonna tell you guys, we're gonna do our best to answer questions here, but we also have Robbie back on in Boise, and he's gonna be answering your questions for you. And if you have specific questions about the animals, we can answer those as well. I think Isaac is going to get one of our very unique reptiles we have here. Probably one of the hardest pets to have. I have a question coming in. Where is Nelson? He's actually outside sunning, and so we're going to go out and visit him at the end of this because he is grazing on the yummy clover outside. He did not want to come in this morning. So we're going to get one of the iguanas. We have two iguanas here. One is Pop and one is Iggy, and if you put their names together, they're named Iggy Pop. They came to us as really young iguanas, and we used to house them together in an enclosure. But now they've grown bigger, and we have a huge enclosure for them. They're now separated because they're pretty aggressive towards each other. And with their enclosures, we can control the amount of humidity and UV light and heat that they have. When we put the iguanas back, we will actually show you guys their enclosures. Maybe we'll just take a quick tour around while we're waiting for the iguanas to get caught and show you some of our enclosures. Jasper, do you want to follow us? So this is where two of the tortoises live. This is Nelson's side and then Kiki's side. We also have, it looks like our iguana's here, so we'll go ahead and come back over here. Isaac has Iggy. And Pop. So this is Pop. He's going to crawl over. No social distancing with Pop here. Iguanas are super cool, but like I said before, they are a tough pet to own. They can live more than 20 years in captivity, and they can grow up to 6 feet from nose to tail. The females are usually a little bit smaller. They really like it where it's hot and wet. So Spokane doesn't have the best climate for them. That's why we have really special housing, so we can control that humidity. They do like it where it's about 90 degrees. So you can imagine where it's warm and hot, might be somewhere down in Florida. They are also sun worshipers. They like the sun out a lot. So we have timers on our lights here so we can keep them under the sunlight for about 12 hours a day. They have to have that UVB or the vitamin D from the sun to help them digest food. They can get really sick if you don't provide that for them. They also will shed their skin as they're growing. They do that through their entire life. And when they're young, they do it quite a bit because they're growing so fast. They're crazy about vegetables. These guys get fed twice a day, and they get a treat of different vegetables. They like to hang leaves in their enclosure so they have lots of food to eat. In the wild, they will eat an occasional insect or a bird's egg or a snail. Their tails do come off. We read about this, but we actually discovered that by accident. Our other iguana, Iggy, got out one time, and we were trying to catch him, and he dropped his tail. And they will grow it back, though, kind of like the beardy's teeth, but they don't grow back. They will grow back their tails. They have an extra eye on top of their head. I think Isaac's going to try to feed Pop right now. It doesn't, oh, nice. Their eye does not, they can't see through it, but they can check out different colors and things from above them. It's photosensory, so it's an organ on top of their head. It can't see, like I said, can't see images, but it can help them see predators that might be above them. And other fish and lizards, or lizards have it as well. They actually can talk to each other, as many animals do. They don't use language like you and I do, but they will bob their head up and down. There's a flap under their chin, the dewlap. Maybe Isaac can kind of point to it there. It's how they can say hello. Dewlaps when they're looking for a girlfriend. If they're bobbing their head really fast, side to side or up and down, it can usually tell them that they're upset or angry. And sometimes it's saying if they actually like the female they're meeting. Pop's really checking this out. And they actually can recognize their caretakers by their voices or vision. Obviously Isaac and Pop have a really good relationship because Isaac spends a lot of time with him. I wouldn't have Pop on my head, but because Isaac and Pop have a relationship, they can do that. And all of reptiles can carry salmonella, which is something really, really careful around here. We actually do a lot of hand washing and are really careful about that. Like I said, these guys can live for 20 years and they have a lot of care requirements, so we have to be careful. They are not necessarily a good pet to have. So we'll put him back. Maybe Stella, can you get me a turtle? We forgot to talk about turtles. We have two types of turtles here at the Outdoor Learning Center. We have one that was rescued from Fish and Wildlife. That's actually a native Washington turtle. This is a western pond turtle, painted pond turtle that you guys might see when you're out and about. Jasper, can you get closer to? This is Aldo Leopold. He was rescued. People often find baby turtles pretty cute and think they've been abandoned, but they have not been abandoned. They actually are not an animal that will stay and take care of their young after they've been hatched out of the eggs. So they'll lay the eggs and they will just go back into the water, basically. And then the eggs will hatch and people will find these babies and think they've been abandoned and try to take care of them. But they're not abandoned. This is kind of their part of their life cycle. You'll see that Leo here has a beautiful painted shell on the bottom, and we're going to compare our other ones. But you see his feet are different than the tortoises, so they have webbed feet. They also have nails. If I had a sea turtle here, you would see that they have flippers, more like a pair of flippers you would swim with. Leo loves to eat vegetables. If he was living in the wild, he would eat snails and fish and other swimming insects he would find. He's probably one of our most social animals we have here. He really likes seeing people come in and maybe going to feed him. So we'll grab our other turtle now. We have some red-eared sliders that we have at the Outdoor Learning Center, Ringo and Star. They are not native. If you guys have ever heard that word, not native, they're not born in Washington State, although people think it's okay to let animals go, so you might see more and more of them in ponds. But we don't want to let any animals go that we have had in captivity. And you guys might notice, I don't know if this is Ringo or Star, we'll just make a guess, that Ringo actually has red on his sides of his head. So he is a red-eared slider. You guys can see it's right by where his ears would be. But he's much bigger. And maybe Isaac, can you show his belly? So he doesn't have the red on his belly like Leo had. But the problem with these guys is people let them go in ponds, and they've actually become pretty overpopulated, and they're actually taking over native turtle and habitat here. So if you have a pet turtle, please do not let it go. And he's being really stinky about putting his feet out, but he also has webbed feet, and they have cute little tails in the back. And sometimes when they get nervous, they'll pee on you. That's why Isaac's being careful not to get it on his shoes. Thanks, Isaac. So we're gonna go on for a question, or let's get a snake out maybe. We'll do a snake. I do have one question that was asked from Carly Van Tyne last week, and she was curious why turtle eggs are round and unlike chicken eggs that are oval. So thanks, Carly, for asking that question. What I can find in my research is actually not all turtle eggs are round. It just kind of depends on what species of turtle there is. So maybe the turtles that you're seeing in your backyard are laying round eggs, but there are lots of different species of turtles that actually lay different shapes of eggs, from oval to everything. We do have questions if you've ever seen a reptile in the wild and maybe what kind of reptile it was. Oh, it looks like we have a question come in. Why is a bearded dragon called a bearded dragon? Well, you guys may have noticed that under their skin or under their chin, they have the flap kind of extra. And so when they puff up, their beard really puffs up. Maybe some of you guys have parents that have beards, dads that have beards. When their beard gets long, it gets kind of puffed up. So we're having a bit of a hard time getting our snake here. We have times for questions. Oh, I have some hellos. Hello, Gavin. Hello, Hazen. Hi, Peyton and Austin. Hello, Lolo. It's good to see you. Raina, Annika, Kayla, and kids. Jessalyn, and Jeff and Ellen. Hello to all of you. I'm so glad you guys are coming in. Next, we're going to be talking about mammals. While we're getting the snake, I'll tell you about that. We do have a few mammals here at the Outdoor Learning Center, so if you have questions about that, but we're going to talk about what makes a mammal, which I mentioned earlier. It looks like we're getting Lebowski out, but he's kind of being a persnickety. So maybe we'll go back to looking at enclosures. Jasper, you want to follow me around? So this is where Ringo and Star live. And we're not going to drop my phone into it. And then if you come over here, maybe actually just grab anything. We also have Leo's enclosure. So he has a UVB light, and he also has some heat sources. Because he's a reptile, he likes to get his temperature from the sun. And then here are the leopard gecko homes. Same thing, heat lights. That's Irwin. And then we have Max here as well. And then Isaac's got the snake out. So this is Lebowski, and he is a ball python, sorry. So he is not a poisonous snake. He'd be a snake that you would find in a jungle somewhere. So he likes high humidity, loves to hide underneath things or under the ground. We feed our snakes here frozen mice. We thaw them out, of course. They don't get anything live. Snakes don't have very good vision, but you can see his tongue coming out. He actually uses that tongue kind of like us. He can sense different changes in temperatures. He can sense really small changes in temperature. So that actually allows him to be an excellent hunter. But snakes cannot see very well. You guys can see his scales there that help hold in the humidity or the moisture. But he also will shed. They're kind of cool when they shed. They shed their whole eyelid cover, so they don't have eyelids like you and I do, but they have a clear protective over it. And so when he sheds, you can see actually where his eyeballs are at. So that's Lebowski. Maybe we'll put him back in. And then we have another snake here that Stella has. This is Pox, and he is a milk snake. So maybe you guys have heard of the poisonous snake that looks a lot like this, a coral snake, but he is not a poisonous snake. He looks like he's getting ready to shed. You guys can tell that maybe he's a little more cloudy than Lebowski was. But he also will shed his whole skin, and you'll see the eye caps. He's a very pretty snake. And then we have Viola's enclosure right here. So again, she likes heat and light. And there's her lunch. Questions? We have another person watching from Canada. Tyson from Canada. I shouldn't say A, but oh, Canada, we love having you on here. And then hi to Chloe and Kim. We're going to actually take you over and show you the iguana enclosures because they're so cool. So this is Pop's enclosure. You guys can see him. He's hanging up there by the sunlight. He has lots of different branches to hang from. That's his already eaten breakfast. He likes to lay on that swing all the time. And we actually use a temperature gun to tell you how warm it is in there, so we can make sure his temperature is good. And then we use a big, huge water sprayer that helps with the humidity. And then we're gonna go outside and see Nelson because everyone wants to see Nelson. Hopefully we can find him. So here's Kiki. Hey, Kiki. And then Jasper. Maybe Jasper, you can zoom in on Nelson's face. So Nelson is in his 20s. He came to us from a very nice woman that had him as in her daycare. She lost her house when a tree blew through it in a storm a few years ago. And so Nelson came to live here with us. He loves to come out here. Once it starts staying above 50 at night, Nelson spends all summer outside. And it's really cool to watch Nelson eat. You see his tongue. He'll be happy when the grass gets greener. But Nelson's one of the kids' favorites. He weighs about 65 pounds, so we don't like to have to pick him up very much. He doesn't like the camera today. So we're gonna go back inside and see if there's any more questions. Don't forget, guys, we're curious, have you ever seen a reptile in the wild? Make sure you answer that question for us, and we'll go back inside. Hi, Kiki. So we did have some people responding to reptiles seen in the wild. Ellen, 2 iguanas and lots of garter snakes and bull snakes. I'm curious where you live at when you saw iguanas or where you saw them. And turtles and alligators and crocodiles. Whoa! I'm glad I don't see very many alligators and crocodiles here in Spokane. And then Lauren from Seattle. Hey, Seattle. Hope you guys are doing well. Melissa, Lily, and Brad. Hello. So for next week, we're going to be studying mammals. And I'm going to show some of our mammals that we have here. But don't forget to ask questions about anything that you're wondering about mammals, or if you have a mammal pet of your own. We have lots of mammals in my house. I want to thank our behind the scenes people. Jasper is helping on the technology. Isaac's our animal handler. And Stella and Tiffany have been answering questions. And Robbie back in Boise are answering questions. And then, ooh, Lolo saw rattlesnakes. That kind of terrifies me. I have also seen a rattlesnake.
A lot of them now.
A lot of questions?
Know what they've seen.
Oh, excellent, what they've seen. So maybe Tiffany can just tell me what you guys have seen.
So Gavin and Hannah have seen yellow, red, and black snakes slither past. Jamie with Rowan and Cooper have seen garter snakes, bull snakes, and turtles. Raina has seen hundreds of reptiles. And lots of turtles in ponds, lots of snakes and skinks. Snakes, lots of snakes people see.
Awesome. So guys, when you guys see reptiles in the wild, you want to be really careful, especially right now because it's starting to get warm during the day. Rattlesnakes usually will warn you with a loud rattle sound, but we don't want to bother them. Bull snakes look a lot like rattlesnakes, so don't make the mistake of, again, it's a bull snake and it's actually a rattlesnake. You want to be careful when you're out there hiking. But right now is the time where the snakes and the reptiles are going to be coming out because winter is over. Stella and I actually were out bike riding yesterday and we saw some pond turtles hanging out on the log, sunning themselves. So make sure you're paying attention. We'd love to hear about when you guys are seeing that. Nelson does not, we have a question. Nelson does not sleep outside unless it gets above 50. And so he actually lives in the classroom during the winter, and then we'll bring him in today. But once it stays above 50 at night, yeah, he sleeps outside. We actually have a kind of a little shed that has a heat lamp in it that he can actually go in. His water is in there and his dinner is in there, so he goes and hangs out there at night. And then as soon as it gets warm enough in the sun, he comes out. That's a great question. So I think we're going to sign off for now, but hopefully I'll see you guys next week. Don't forget to go to our YouTube channel and subscribe to the Outdoor Learning Center. We have a really cool turtle craft for you guys to do this week. And then next week, we're going to talk all about mammals and introduce you to some of the mammals we have here at the Outdoor Learning Center. So have a great week. Stay safe. Wash your hands. We miss all of you. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.